Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Wednesday, March 19th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside today will be pleasant, with a high of 75.6 degrees and a low of 50.0. Coming up on today's show, we'll examine the constitutional question of whether a wealthy tech executive could potentially dismantle a federal agency without going through the Senate approval process. Then, we'll take a closer look at California's Medi-Cal program, which is currently facing significant financial challenges with a substantial budget deficit. What factors are contributing to this healthcare funding crisis, and what might it mean for the millions of Californians who rely on these services? We'll break down the details in our coverage ahead. In a major development that could reshape the Trump administration's approach to government restructuring, a federal judge has dealt a significant blow to Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency. Joining us now with details on this breaking story is our Washington correspondent, Ethan. Ethan, this ruling seems to put the brakes on DOGE's efforts to dismantle USAID. What can you tell us?
That's right, Grace. In what you might call a judicial leash on DOG's activities, U.S. District Judge Theodore Chuang issued a preliminary injunction yesterday blocking further cuts to the U.S. Agency for International Development. According to PBS NewsHour, the judge ruled that the dismantling of USAID by Elon Musk's Department of Government Efficiency likely violates the U.S. Constitution, specifically the Appointments Clause.
Can you explain what constitutional issues are at play here? This seems to be more than just a policy disagreement.
Absolutely. The lawsuit, brought by USAID employees through the State Democracy Defenders Fund, argues that Musk is essentially acting as a government official without proper appointment. The Constitution's Appointments Clause requires principal officers to be appointed by the President and confirmed by the Senate. Legal experts consulted by Perplexity explain that despite being described as merely advisory, Musk appears to be exercising substantial authority over government operations without Senate confirmation.
I understand Judge Chuang cited some of Musk's own statements in the ruling. What did he find particularly concerning?
The judge didn't exactly find Musk's comments to be in good taste. According to WVTM 13's reporting, Judge Chuang specifically referenced Musk's social media post where he claimed he had fed USAID into the wood chipper. The judge noted that USAID has been effectively eliminated and is unlikely to be able to perform its required functions. The ruling requires the restoration of email and computer access for all USAID employees, including those placed on administrative leave.
Let's talk about DOGE itself. What exactly is this department, and what authority does it actually have?
Well, Grace, you could say DOGE is barking up a constitutional tree here. According to Perplexity Research, DOGE was created through Executive Order 14,158, issued by President Trump on January 20, 2025. It's essentially a renamed and reorganized U.S. digital service. The key point is that DOGE doesn't have official government powers to issue rules, rescind regulations, terminate federal employees, or enforce federal laws on its own. Its role is supposed to be purely advisory.
And USAID itself has a long history, correct? It wasn't created overnight.
That's right. USAID was established through the Foreign Assistance Act of 1961, passed by Congress, and further solidified as an independent agency by the Foreign Affairs Reform and Restructuring Act of 1998. As ABC 7 Los Angeles reports, prior to this ruling, the Trump administration had placed most of USAID's worldwide staff on administrative leave and notified at least 1,600 U.S.-based staffers of their termination. Little scholars point out that any significant changes to USAID require legislative action by Congress, not just executive action.
How significant is this ruling in the broader context of the administration's government efficiency initiatives?
This is potentially a watershed moment, Grace. The executive chair of the State Democracy Defenders Fund told PBS NewsHour that this ruling is a milestone in pushback to DOGE and the first to find that Musk's actions violate the Constitution's Appointments Clause. It may set a precedent limiting the extent to which private individuals can influence government operations without formal appointment or oversight. You might say the judge has put DOGE in the constitutional doghouse.
Thanks for that comprehensive breakdown, Ethan. We'll be watching closely as this story develops and the administration considers its response to this significant legal setback. In our second story this morning, California's Medi-Cal program is facing a financial emergency that could impact healthcare for millions. Joining us to discuss this crisis is our healthcare policy reporter, Chloe Bennett. Chloe, what's happening with Medi-Cal's finances?
Grace, it's a dire situation. According to reporting from Cal Matters, California's Medi-Cal program is staring down a massive $6.2 billion shortfall. Officials are describing the cost increases as unprecedented, and it's putting enormous pressure on the state's budget.
That's a staggering number. What's causing such a dramatic shortfall?
Several factors are at play here. The primary driver is higher than expected enrollment. Particularly significant is the expansion of Medi-Cal coverage to undocumented immigrants, which has cost $2.8 billion more than budgeted, according to Perplexity. For context, Medi-Cal is California's version of Medicaid, providing healthcare coverage for low-income residents.
I understand the expansion to undocumented immigrants was relatively recent. How much did officials initially expect that to cost?
Well, that's where the medicalations went wrong, if you'll pardon the pun. The expansion to undocumented immigrants aged 26 to 49 was initially projected to cost $3.9 billion from California's general fund from January 2024 through June 2025. But Perplexity reports the actual cost for the current budget year alone skyrocketed to $8.4 billion, with another $7.4 billion projected for the next fiscal year.
Are there other factors contributing to this financial health scare?
Absolutely. Rising pharmacy costs are taking a significant toll, and demographic shifts are playing a role too. California's aging population requires more extensive and expensive care. Plus, the state eliminated asset tests for long-term care, which has increased enrollment among seniors substantially.
How is the state handling this immediate crisis? They can't just let the program collapse.
They're in emergency mode, Grace. According to the Long Beach Post, California has already borrowed $3.4 billion from the general fund to cover immediate Medi-Cal expenses and ensure healthcare providers get paid through the end of this month. Governor Newsom has requested an additional $2.8 billion to keep the program solvent through June. Fortunately, state tax revenue has exceeded projections by $4.6 billion through February, which provides some breathing room.
I imagine this has become quite political in Sacramento?
You could say the political temperature is running a fever. Cal Matters reports that Democrats are defending the expansion as essential for public health and reducing poverty in immigrant communities. Meanwhile, Republicans are criticizing Governor Newsom for prioritizing health care for undocumented immigrants over other budget priorities.
What solutions are being considered for the long term?
Senate leaders are examining cost containment measures, potentially including enrollment caps or benefit limitations, though nothing specific has been implemented yet. The state has renewed its managed care organization tax, which helps offset state Medicaid spending and attracts additional federal funds. There's also the ongoing implementation of Cal AIM, which includes programs designed to improve health outcomes for high-need members through cost-effective alternatives to traditional medical services.
Is there concern about federal funding changes?
Absolutely. There's growing anxiety about potential federal Medicaid cuts that could further strain California's budget. The state is walking a tightrope, trying to balance cost containment while maintaining access to care for its most vulnerable residents.
Thank you for that comprehensive explanation, Chloe. It sounds like California has some difficult prescriptions to fill in the coming months.
Indeed, Grace. This financial diagnosis will require some serious treatment.
Here are some other headlines. A federal judge has blocked the Trump administration's attempt to enforce a ban on transgender individuals serving in the U.S. military. U.S. District Judge Anna Reyes issued the ruling on Tuesday, preventing the ban from taking effect as scheduled on Friday. The judge's decision suggests the executive order likely violates constitutional rights of transgender service members. Official details of the ruling are expected Friday, giving the administration time to consider an appeal. For now, transgender individuals can continue their military service without restriction. The Social Security Administration will require both new and existing recipients to undergo in-person identity verification starting March 31st. This change aims to combat fraud in direct deposit transactions, which have cost over $100 million annually. Individuals unable to verify their identity through the SSA's online service must visit a local field office in person. Retiree advocates warn this will disproportionately impact older Americans in rural areas, those with disabilities, and people with limited internet access. The SSA also plans to close dozens of field offices and lay off thousands of workers, raising concerns about access to benefits. Tesla properties across the country are facing a surge in violent attacks linked to Elon Musk's role in the Trump administration. Incidents include arson at charging stations in Massachusetts and South Carolina, vandalism of vehicles in Dedham, Massachusetts, and an explosive attack at a Colorado dealership, resulting in an arrest. President Trump has condemned the vandalism as domestic terror, while the Attorney General has opened an investigation into possible coordination behind these attacks. The incidents reflect growing political tensions surrounding Musk's prominent position in the Department of Government Efficiency. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has warned that recent airstrikes across Gaza that killed over 400 Palestinians are only the beginning of renewed military operations. The strikes follow Hamas's refusal to change ceasefire terms regarding hostage releases. Israel has warned civilians to move to safer areas, suggesting potential ground operations ahead. The White House has supported Israel's actions, blaming Hamas for the renewed fighting. Meanwhile, aid groups express concern about Gaza's dire humanitarian situation after Israel cut off essential supplies 2 weeks ago. Presidents Trump and Putin discussed organizing hockey games between U.S. and Russian players during a recent phone call primarily scheduled to address the Ukraine conflict. The proposed series would feature players from the NHL and Russia's KHL. Any such event would require approval from NHL owners, the Players Association, and KHL representatives. Russia has been banned from international hockey tournaments by the IIHF since its invasion of Ukraine in 2022, though Russian players continue to compete in the NHL. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 3.7, Gemini Flash 2.0, the Perplexity API, and the Google Cloud Text-to-Speech API. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.